The yeses have it. So far. We'll keep this up for a while. Should the voting age be raised? The title of this, I should have said, are young people too ignorant to vote, not stupid. But stupid rolls off the tongue better, right? Isn't stupid a great word? I mean, it has the S and the T and the two O's. Stupid. But it should be, are young people too ignorant to vote? Let me see here. I want to check the climate change stuff before we get started. Global temperature, nothing new. Yeah. So we haven't made new highs in 6 years. So the Earth hasn't warmed in 6 years, made new highs. It's still lower than 2016. Sea level. Man, they haven't done anything since November 2022. If I wanted to be really cynical, I would say that means the sea levels have gone down. Because if they'd gone up, they would have published it, I would think. And I still haven't got an answer why they shift the whole curve down by 2 standards of error. Ugh. But sea levels haven't gone up in several months. So that's good news. Let's listen to, how do you say this guy's name? Vivek Ramaswamy. He's calling for, if he's voted president, he wants to raise the voting age.
First of all, the best operating document for a free society known to mankind. This is my #1 reason why I'm on the side of not a national divorce, but a national revival, because once you have a national divorce, the Constitution itself is gone. One of the things that we don't do a good enough job of in this country is teaching the next generation what the Constitution actually says. Okay? So
I heard an amen there.
one of the things I favor, this is controversial to some people. If you want to be 18 years old, graduate from high school, and cast a ballot in this country at a young age, you better at least pass the civics portion of the test that immigrants have to pass to actually come to this country.
Amen. I'll give an amen to that. I'm an immigrant, and I had to pass the test. And now I can legally vote.
But revive our civic life.
By the way, it's an extremely easy test. I was asked 5 questions, got all 5 questions right. If I got like a couple of them wrong, then they would keep asking questions till 10 questions. And then out of 10 questions, you have to get 6 right? Something like that. You guys want to know what the questions are? I'll see if I can look them up.
So we're going to have to think big about how we revive. It's not just, I no longer just point to the leadership's failure to follow the Constitution. That's important. That'll be my job in Washington, D.C. to take on. But the real problem is we have to have a population and a culture in this country that's committed to it in the first place. And if I had to choose between one or the other, the whole ballgame is the second one. And that's where my focus is. And as the youngest person, as I said, I'd be the youngest person ever elected to the U.S. presidency if I'm elected. I take that as my chief responsibility to pass that on to the next generation. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. How are you? Oh, I've seen you before. Good to see you again. Yes, remind me your name again? Levi. You gotta be 25 instead of 18. But you can still vote at 18 if you take the test, yes. Yeah. And you're okay with that?
Question I have off the top of my head is why not have everybody take the test? Why stop at 25? Like, there's some really ignorant people at the age of 55, right? Who don't know the basics of how this country works. So, by the way, here's some of the questions. What is the supreme law of the land? The Constitution. Number 10, what is the freedom of religion? You can practice any religion or practice no religion. Let's see here. Number 19, we elect a U.S. Senator for how many years? 6. Number 32, who's the commander-in-chief of the military? The president. Let's see. Number 38, what is the highest court in the United States? The Supreme Court. Like, if you can't pass these questions, should you be voting? What is one responsibility that is only for United States citizens? Serve on a jury and vote in federal elections. When must all men register for select service? At the age of 18. Does that include trans women? Woo. I mean, trans men. What happened at the Constitutional Convention? See, you don't even have to know anything. You could probably guess that, well, maybe that's when the Constitution was written. You would be right. Who's the father of the country? George Washington. Number 77. Oh, this one's a little tougher. What did Susan B. Anthony do? I think she started a YouTube channel, right? No, she fought for women's rights. Question number 78. Name one war fought in the United States in the 1900s. Oh, I mean, if you can't name one war in the 1900s, there's a hint. There's two of them that start with the word world. What major event happened on September 11, 2001 in the United States? That's question 86. Name one American Indian tribe. Like if you've watched any TV, you should be able to know that. At least one. Cherokee, Navajo, Sioux, Chippewa, Apache, Iroquois, Blackfeet. And the list goes on and on. Inuit. Those are the Canadian ones. Well, no, they're in Alaska too. The geography section. Name one U.S. territory. Puerto Rico, Guam. Those are the ones I remember. Name one state that borders Canada. I mean, if you can't answer that question, one state that borders Canada, should you be voting? Name one state that borders Mexico. If you can't answer that, should you be voting? Some of you are hearing these questions for the very first time in your life, that this is what's on the citizenship test. I tell you, it's extremely easy. Why does the flag have 50 stars? There's another question in here, like, name one branch of government. We elect a president for how many years? Question number 26. We elect a U.S. representative for how many years? 2. Name your U.S. senator. Name one U.S. senator. Name one congressperson in your state. For me, it's Juan Ciscomani, who I hope to see this summer in Washington, D.C. So, okay, is this fair? I mean, is this asking too much? So the conditions this Vivek Ramaswamy says make the voting age 25, except if you pass the citizenship test or you serve in the military or with the police or fire department. You got to do some type of civic duty to earn your right to vote. I'm the type of person who thinks it's totally okay to make voting a little bit, just a little bit difficult. I'm A-okay with that. And if people call me racist, I'm okay with that too. As you get older, you got to learn to be okay when people call you names. I didn't put this in the title, but I was going to put this in the title as well, that it's time for people to grow up. And a lot of young people, age 25 and under, haven't grown up yet, especially in this generation. I mean, you hear stories about people in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, having careers well before age 25, being married, having a house, having kids. That happens today too, but it's more rare. Like even things like being able to change a flat tire on your car, that speaks volumes to me if you can do that. That you have some basic life skills, that you've lived a little. But I don't know. I think we should take it one step further and say that everybody has to be able to pass the civics test in order to vote. Everyone. What are we at? 57% say no, the voting age should not be raised. I don't understand what the obsession about growing up, Pinecreek politics. What did the grown-ups have achieved? The grown-ups, what they have achieved? Well, they probably pay for your food, Mitesh. I'm not saying you're on welfare. I'm not. You could be a productive member of society. But if you don't pay federal taxes, there's another thing. Most memberships in anything other than politics have a membership fees, dues. Right? And if you don't pay your fees, don't pay your dues for your membership, you don't have the right to vote. What's the membership fees and dues in the United States? It's being born here, but that's whip-de-doo-dah. And right now you have to be over 18. Now, if you're against raising it, let's flip it. Should the voting age be lowered? Oh, okay. This is why I get paid the big bucks, because that is a great question, if I do say myself. Let's record these results. 58% say no for 25. Let's change the poll, shall we? Let's confuse the audience. Should the voting age be lowered? I won't put a number on it, but let's say, I don't know, 16. We can drive it at age 16. Why shouldn't we be able to vote at 16? I forgot to do a screen capture of that. 58% was the results for should it be to the negative. We should not raise the voting age. 58% said no, don't vote, raise the voting age. Let's see what percentage think we should lower it to, let's say, 16 or something. You should have to be whatever the age requirement is to hold a position to vote for. So, but for president, that would be, how old do you have to be president? 38? 33? Is there a minimum age for president? This wasn't on the civics exam. Minimum age to be president. 35. I was in the ballpark. Yes, lowering the voting age and wait 10 years so there's no apparent gain for either party. Well, we know that young people tend to vote Democrat by not insignificant margin. But we also know that young people tend to be emotional, hormonal, ignorant, stupid. Anybody disagree with that? Like if you're a 25 or 30-year-old listening right now, think back to when you were 20, 18, and think just how much you've matured since then, right? You've matured a ton, and you're only 30 years old, and you're looking back when you're 20. I mean, can you imagine the stuff that you wish you would have known at age 20 that you now know at age 30? I'd rather let youngsters have no tax burden. Well, federal taxes, most young people don't pay federal taxes. In fact, what is it? 30-40% of even adults don't pay federal taxes. Or they might pay it, but they get it back, and then some. Please know that if you don't pay federal taxes, when it comes to federal issues, you're or federal social support, you are a burden to society. You need to accept that. If you don't pay federal taxes, federally speaking, you're a burden to society. Financial burden to society. Well, while the votes are coming in on that one, I've been doing some quick and dirty math on interest payments. Oh man, it's looking like within 5 years, this country will be paying $1 trillion in interest payments on our debt. So, should the voting age be lowered? 82% say no. We're almost at the same number of votes. Let me put this up. Why is my question. For those who voted no, why? Put your answers in the live stream chat. I'm going to hear your reasoning. Careful, this is a trap. Why is being a burden a bad thing? By definition, it's a bad thing. Blessings are good, burdens are bad. That's just how we define things. So people can see the problem with voting young but don't think the age should be raised? Jacob Lee, yeah. This is why it's a trap question. 81% of you said the voting age should not be lowered. And I'm going to ask you why. Then you're going to give your reason. And then I'm going to say, well, then shouldn't we raise it? Why is 18 the sweet spot? Because old people are not well equipped to understand the needs of children. Now that's a... Sorry, got to be careful now. Well, that's an interesting comment, man in charge, since old people are the ones who have raised the children. But I guess parents don't understand the needs of their own children. Now, don't get me wrong. Some parents are idiots and don't understand the needs of their children. Some. Because change is uncomfortable. Well, that's a safe answer, Nick. Come on, take a chance. Why shouldn't the voting age be lowered? $18 is one that's legally considered an adult. To push this back would push a lot of other items onto young people, so a pretty big change. Okay, that's a fairly good answer, Michael. But then maybe we should raise the driving age to 18. Like you can drive a car at 16, actually 15 if you have a learner's permit. Why do we allow kids to drive around at 15, 2,000 pounds of car on the road that can kill pedestrians? We put that in the hands of 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds. But we don't let them vote at 15, 16, where, I mean, they're not immediately going to kill anybody from casting a vote, but they could immediately kill someone from making a mistake on the road. Where's your consistency? If kids can get in machines that can kill people, why can't we let them vote? Yeah, I was driving at age 12. I have been pulled over by the cops at age 12. I've flashed my high beams to a police officer, RCMP, at age 12. Get your high beams down there, officer. And guess what? No arrests, no charges, because I was a farm boy helping my dad bring stuff back from the field. Why are we? No, right now, Digit Hand, I'm asking the question, should the voting age be lowered, Digit Hand? Why are we considering raising the voting age now? Right now, we're considering lowering it. Are you for that or against that? And if you're against it, why? Careful, this is a trap question. Trappy, trappy, trappy. Does anybody have the guts just to come out and say, because young people are ignorant, emotional, often stupid, Is that hard for you to admit and say? Like, is there a part of you that kind of agrees with that, but just is scared to say it? Digit hand says, I am for lowering it. Okay. Well, then you're consistent. How old are you, Digit hand? If you're in your 20s or 30s, go back in time 10 years and tell me how much more you know now than 10 years ago. But I do think that I agree with this. Vivek Ramaswamy, that the voting age should be increased. It should be made a little more difficult for people to vote, especially at an early age. You should have a demonstration that you at least know the basics of how the country works. But I'm all for every single person on in the United States who wants to vote to pass the citizenship test, like I had to as a Canadian. I'm for making voting a little difficult. Okay, let's end that poll. So it ended up 79% says we shouldn't lower it, 58% says we shouldn't raise it. Interesting. Why do you guys think that, according to exit polls, what is it? I guess I can look it up. Why is it that young people tend to vote Democrat? What's your thoughts on that? Put your answers in live stream chat. Why do young people lean Democrat? What's your theories? Darren, don't get me wrong. There's some very smart young people. Yeah, here we go. 2020 election, ages 18 to 29, 60% Biden. That's not insignificant. Whenever you have a huge country like this and you got 60%, that's a material difference. If you tighten it up a little bit, 18 to 24 down here, it's 65%. Why do young people tend to vote Democrat? Pops BG, because they haven't died yet inside. Ding, 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 ding. Yeah, they haven't been punched in the gut enough yet. Emotional immaturity. Yep, I agree with that. Because children are taught basic fairness, or taught. Yeah, I think you meant to say basic fairness. Yeah, tell that to a 5-year-old who wants his toy. They don't like Republican policies. Well, there's a smart answer. But why 65% at age 18 to 24, and as you get older, like, why do people agree with Democratic policies at a younger age, and then at an older age they tend to lean more Republican policies? Like, in the last election, it was pretty close, but Trump still won over the age of 50, maybe even 45. Why do people tend to lean Republican as they get older? And why do people lean Democrat when they're younger? Here's a few things I'll throw out there. It's because young people tend not to be married with kids. And so there's different issues for them compared to older people married with kids, have their own businesses, let's say. If you have your own business and you're married and you have kids, you're worried about things like what's going on in schools. You're worried about things like regulations on how easy it is to start a business. These are things most kids, I'm calling kids anybody under the age of, I'll say 28, don't have to think about or deal with. Because kids still have hope. I like that answer, Mason. You should have to make over $50K a year to vote. Well, if you're going to put a money value on it, I don't think you should do it based on income. If you're going to say that money should be attached to voting, you should do based on how much federal taxes you pay, or that you pay any. Like, one of the biggest fears, I think, for a lot of Republicans are, if young people who pay zero federal income tax can vote federally on issues, they can vote themselves continued paying no tax, and even benefits like tuition debt being forgiven, other issues. Like, they can basically vote to confiscate money from people who earned it to themselves. So that's the reasoning. You can disagree with this, but that's the reasoning, that in order to vote, you should have to pay at least some federal income tax. Like, most people who are on some type of welfare program, they have to be able to admit to themselves that they are a financial burden to society, and that wealthy people, or people who pay federal income tax, are supporting you. Actually, if I run for president someday, which I can't because I was born in Canada, I would say the Good Manners Act, that once a year, someone who's been given welfare of some sort has to write a thank you letter to a multimillionaire or billionaire. Dear millionaire, thank you for supporting me. I really appreciate it. Hugs and kisses. The Good Manners Act. It's good, just good manners to say thank you when you're given something, right? We all pay taxes in one form or another. True, Stephanie, but you notice I've been very careful to say federal income taxes. And usually if you don't pay federal income taxes, you don't pay state income taxes, but not always. But yeah, definitely people pay sales tax. Yeah, paying taxes is a good thing if you want things like roads and other services that the government provides. I'm not against paying my taxes. I could have hidden a lot of things in my life. I've paid way more taxes than I probably could have. Legally, I could have really lowered my taxes. But I didn't. Maybe that makes me stupid. But maybe it helped me get my citizenship quicker. Okay, that was fun. Let's this is a part of a tactic I use to get people who disagree with me to like me a little bit more. And so the tactic I'm using here, sincerely, I'm playing my cards on the table. It's still a tactic. But I sincerely agreed with, how do you say this guy? Cenk Uygur. Anybody? Someone phonetically spelled this guy's name for me in the live stream chat. And he made some commentary about Trump's recent town hall meeting on CNN. And there was many things I agreed with. Hang on. Let me put me in the foreground. There we go. Many things I agreed with, and I would like to share them. Let's get rid of this poll. 79% say no, lowering. So here we go.
Caitlin Collins was moderating, and it was a room filled with Republicans and people who are undecided but leaning Republican. So the room was super friendly to him, and that made a giant difference. I'm going to talk about how he did, how the moderator did, or the questioner, Caitlin.
You know what's weird is I tried to find the full. I didn't see it live, and I tried to find the full conversation on YouTube. Couldn't find it. Okay, thank you. Pronounced Cenk Uygur. Is that right? Cenk Uygur. Okay. But I couldn't find it on YouTube. But I found it on Rumble. Now, I can be very cynical here, but I'm thinking if Trump did horrible on CNN's town hall meeting, you'd be able to find it right away on YouTube. But you can't. Maybe I'm going nuts here, but someone try it. Well, open a new tab while I'm talking here and try to find the full version, the over 1 hour, whatever it was, version of that town hall meeting on YouTube. And let me know if you can find it.
Collins, and we're going to talk about his lies, but we're also going to give his most honest answer and most correct answer. Interesting. Did those even happen in this town hall? They did. They did, and I'm going to give you some of his most outrageous lies and then analyze overall. So let's get to it. Okay.
I'm always looking forward to when someone says that someone else lied and here's an outrageous lie and here it is, because like to prove lying, that's a high bar before ignorance, being mistaken. Like let me put it this way. In fact, let's do a poll. When a Christian says they know Jesus rose from the dead, are they lying? When a Christian says they know Jesus rose from the dead, are they lying? Actually, I think this question alone separates, well, nah, I'll shut up. Don't want to bias the poll. Look at this. Look at this. How the people are divided. Well, I should let some more votes come in. Why is that doing that? My lighting's too low today, that's why. I gotta fix my lighting. Please vote. I'm very curious on your answer. And I'm very curious how I can fix this. When a Christian says they know Jesus rose from the dead, are they lying? Three more votes. I need 30 for a representative sample. Please vote. 2 more votes. One more vote. I need one more vote. Because my statistics teacher in high school taught me. There we go. So we got 58% say no, 42% say yes. I think the people who say yes lean Democrat and people who say no lean Republican. Now, I'm sure there's some Democrats who said no and some Republicans who said yes, but overall, I answer no to this. I would say they're mistaken. They've looked at the evidence and they've mistakenly said that they know Jesus rose from the dead, or they're convinced by things that if they were to use the outsider test for faith, they would see very quickly an inconsistency and they say, well, maybe I don't know it. I could have used the word believe That might have changed the results, but I use the word no on purpose here. I'm saying high confidence. And if you're the type of person who says, yes, a Christian's lying when they say they know Jesus rose from the dead, you're definitely going to say Trump's lying when he says that the election was rigged. Or any other politician when they say something like that. But now just view Trump as a Christian who's deceived himself in a way, who's bought into his own reality. Is he lying? How is this vote even close? Do you know what lying means? Yes, Jerome Robinson. Good point. Do people even know what the word lying means? And this is, I think, the one point where I disagreed with Cenk Uygur. Oh no, I already forgot how to say his name. It's this whole idea in order for someone to lie, you have to know their heart, basically, their soul, their mind. I don't believe there's a soul, but you know what I'm getting at. You have to know deeply their intention. Now, with Trump, it might be a little bit easier, but on certain things. But just in general, if someone says something and let's say they're wrong, okay? In fact, I can make this I'll take an extreme case. Pretend I'm a flat earther, and I look at you and I say, the earth is flat. Have I lied to you? The answer is no. If I truly believe it. This is like the George Costanza episode on Seinfeld. If I truly believe and have been persuaded by the evidence, in quotes, that the earth is flat, and I look at you and sincerely and confidently say, the earth is flat, I have not lied to you. I've said, in my opinion, unless I'm really deceived, I have just told you something that's false, but that does not make me a liar. And this is, I got to be careful, but this is the problem I see a lot of Democrats make, that saying something false is equivalent to lying. It isn't. If I'm, let's say, 2 years old, and I say 2 + 2 is 5, have I lied as a 2-year-old? No. I'm wrong as a 2-year-old. Please get this through your thick skulls. And I think Democrats are doing themselves a disservice when it comes to Trump when they just keep throwing out that word. Liar, liar, liar. Sometimes it's justified, but I'm saying sometimes it's not. But in order to justify lying, the bar is huge. Now, I do think on that CNN town hall meeting, there were pretty clear-cut examples that Cenk here will give of Trump lying. But other cases, it's not clear.
Okay. So, number one, having it in this context, first, let me acknowledge it makes some degree of sense, right? So you're in a Republican primary, and so you're doing a town hall. You're going to do it in front of largely Republican voters. Okay. But that is a giant home court advantage, especially for Donald Trump, because he comes in, he looked a little nervous. Whenever he's nervous, he talks slower, and he hunches over and lowers his shoulders, kind of like he did when in the press conference with Vladimir Putin. So he's definitely.
I don't agree with that. Let me state for the record, I'm not a Trump fan. I think I can be objective when it comes to Trump because I neither love him nor hate him. I'm not scared of him. I don't think he's going to, if he's voted again, become the next Hitler and our democracy is ruined. I don't have any fear of him. but neither do I think he's anything close to a role model we want for any citizen of the United States to follow. So I think I can be objective when it comes to Trump, which can't be said for, I'd say, the vast majority of people in the United States. I'd say the majority of people in the United States either hate him or love him. There's maybe 10 to 20% of people like me who neither.
Definitely a little worried about it in the beginning. And by the way, I will shout out some folks as I do this review. So Big T, the Pyro Guy, thanks for joining. We appreciate it. Members make this show possible. They make this video possible, make our live show possible. Live show every day, 6 to 8 o'clock p.m. I don't think she asked them in quite the right way, which I'll explain in a second. It's not a criticism of her. She tried really hard. It's just to say that I think that there is a slightly better way to do it that puts them more on the line. I'll get to that as well. But the audience was a big difference because, and by the way, for the better and for the worse. So the example I'll use for both is when Caitlin Collins asked about how he was just found.
B. Guzman, can you say something false to gain advantage? Yes, you can, of course. Is that lying? Well, if you're saying something false that you know to be true, or vice versa, then you're lying. The question is, how do you get inside someone's brain to know that they're mistaken or they're purposely being deceptive and lying? That's the point. And I'm saying it's not a knockdown. Like, I think that if you could get inside Trump's brain that he believes so strongly that the election was rigged, that it's no longer a lie to him, that when he utters those words, he's saying something false, but he's not lying. Now, I know reasonable people can disagree with me on this and say, well, based on this and this and this, other things he said, that it is lying. And I do agree that it can be fuzzy. But you get the point when I'm saying that if someone truly believes, like a Christian truly believes that Jesus rose from the dead, and most of us in here are atheists, I think, we wouldn't say that those Christians, well, it's 42% of you would say they're lying. But I say no, they're not lying to you. They're wrong, in my opinion. They're mistaken, in my opinion. They're uttering false statements, in my opinion. But they're not lying. They truly believe that Jesus rose from the dead.
Found liable for sexually abusing E. Jean Carroll and defamation. And when Donald Trump basically was super cavalier about it and said, I don't know her, I don't care, and he started making jokes about her and smearing her even further, the audience is cheering and laughing and ha ha.
Yeah, it should be noted, I forget the lady's name, but he was not found guilty criminally for that. He's not been proven in a court of law, at least, to have criminally raped that woman. That's a fact. He's been found guilty civilly, but that's a completely different standard. Civil juries, civil laws are different than criminal juries, criminal laws. By the way, you remember, what's his name? I have it up here somewhere. That Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh? Remember him? And some ladies came up and said that they were raped by him. Global News of Canada. Canada's pretty left-leaning compared to the U.S. Justice Brett M. Kavanaugh's accusers admitted this week that she made up her lurid tale of backseat car rape, saying it was a tactic to try to derail the judge's confirmation to the Supreme Court. There goes the Me Too movement. This is something that is also very important. Some women lie. Some women flat out lie when it comes to rape. What percentage? Who knows? My guess is it's anywhere from 7 to 15%. And I would say those percentages even go up higher when you got a man of power, wealth, and there's more at stake, more to be gained. So the extra risks are taken. So just because a woman says she was raped does not make it true. You have to look at the evidence. And I'm saying the evidence in the Trump in this one particular lady's case has not been presented in a court of law criminally. That's a fact.
Now, a normal audience of, independent voters, mixed voters might be horrified. I mean, I would hope that they would be horrified at his pictures.
Someone wants the link for that. Yeah, fine. Is this news to anyone? Did anybody not? Are you hearing this for the first time? That globalnews.ca. Let's see, it will accept the link. Let me get rid of that. Don't need a citizenship test anymore. Don't need that anymore.
But this audience kind of loved it. So in one way, the fact that they keep cheering for whatever Trump said was very helpful to Trump. In another way, it kind of exposes Republicans. Man, that was a super ugly scene, what they were doing in there. I'm going to come back to that more too. But Kathy McIntyre, thank you for being a member. We appreciate it. And by the way, you can upgrade through the join button too. That's how you join. That's why it's called the join button below the video on YouTube. And that's also.
Yeah, I don't know if she testified to Congress, but she testified in some capacity, maybe not in the actual building in front of Congress. But she was the lady who had made this claim against Trump. Not Trump, Kavanaugh.
Okay, so now when they do that, I think, look, when somebody tells you who they are, believe them, including a room full of people, and that's basically what was happening there. But when Caitlin Collins does do the tough questioning, interrupting often, etc., there's a second dynamic there at play, which is that it then makes it seem like Trump versus the media, and the media is not effective or fair. They're just against them. It's almost like a debate. But that's not Caitlin Collins' fault. It's not CNN's fault in that case. It's because Donald Trump lies 24/7, nonstop.
Okay, now, is that a lie? I mean, this is so ridiculous. This is what happens when you become so emotional and passionate about an issue. Donald Trump lies 24/7. You know, this is hyperbole, right? Like, I'm gracious enough to say he's using hyperbole. Of course, this is not literally true. Chuck Uygur is not purposely lying to me right now. But we do know that he doesn't. When Trump is sleeping, he's not lying. Well, he's lying down, but he's not lying. So we know literally this is not true. But I'm not going to call him a liar for this.
Like funny lies, ridiculous lies, dangerous lies, lies on top of lies. So she has to constantly correct them so the audience doesn't think that, hey, he said something, she didn't challenge him, so I guess it must be true. But that sets up the dynamic of, well, the media must hate Donald Trump, and they're not objective, so I'm not going to listen to anything they say.
Yeah.
I'm worried about that.
Yeah, he's describing a little bit of me and a lot of other people who lean right, that the hatred for Trump is so huge that it's really hard for people on the right to calmly sit down, listen to people like this person, and just, dispassionately just take it in, because we know the hate there is for Trump.
And so that was one of the concerns here, and I think it was an issue. Now, by the way, it doesn't mean that CNN shouldn't do the town hall. I think that he's not only a presidential candidate, he's a former president. He's the current leading presidential candidate.
Yeah, he's saying that the town hall should have happened. But he's disagreeing with AOC
audience,
here.
And I could not have disagreed with it more. It was shameful. I think it was a profoundly irresponsible decision. I don't think that I would be doing my job if I did not say that. And what we saw tonight was a series of extremely irresponsible decisions that put a sexual abuse victim at risk, that put that... How does
that put a person at risk? by just having a town hall meeting? You mean emotionally, I guess, not physically.
Person at risk in front of a national audience, and I could not have disagreed with it more. It was shameful.
Yeah. So AOSC thinks that Trump should not be given any platform, even though he's running for president.
The Republican side, and he's currently leading Biden by 7 points. So you, at some point, you have to do a town.
That's a fact. I looked that up. At least in some polls. In some other polls, it's more. And I've made a bet. Who was that bet with? I got it written down somewhere on one of my emails. But I bet someone that if it's Trump versus Biden, Trump was going to win. And I still stand by that. I still think that's going to be true.
You have to do debates. You just have to figure out the right way to do them, not to damage them, but to be fair and to get, most importantly, to get the audience actual facts. How do you fact check him in a way that it is believable and not seen as necessarily confrontational? That one is super hard.
Yes.
Jennifer McIntosh.
And I think the way most left-leaning journalists do it is bad and not effective. In fact, it hurts them. And this is why I'm playing this, because there's some things that Cenk Uygur says that Cenk Uygur says that I agree with.
Thank you, love you right back, and thank you for being a member. Thank you for upgrading. Okay, so now look, the Ian Jean Carroll was a terrible part of this town hall, and I think he kind of revealed himself. I mean, the way that he kept making fun of her, I guess, and then he said, "Well, you know, it's unfortunately or fortunately for her." For her, that, I mean, they'd already spent a lot of time on it. I don't blame Collins for not.
Okay, are we agreed so far that Cenk Uygur has not given one example of Trump lying yet? And we're 5 minutes in on a 20-minute video. He just made the claim that Trump lies 24/7. He has not actually said given any examples yet.
Stopping there and coming back to that question, she moved on. But so he's saying that the celebrities being able to sexually assault random people and get away with it is somehow fortunate for the sexual assault.
Chad asks, how damaging does a person have to be before we decide not to platform them, even if they're popular? I would say that if they are basically, if there's a very strong correlation between a huge percentage of his followers commanding the physical violence of other people. Like, that person lives there, you people go there and kill him. And it happens. And then he does it again, and it happens. That's where I draw the line. But when it comes to someone, like if Trump makes 50% of the country cry, I do not care. If Trump gives anxiety and depression to 50% of the country, I'm just being honest with you, I don't care. But if Trump starts, through his words or influence, and you can see a direct causation correlation with people having their arms chopped off or being killed, then I care.
Victim. I mean, he says such outrageous things that no other politician could possibly say would be a career ender, but it's an afterthought. It's like a tiny little thing in this giant a mountain of lies that you barely notice it. So,
Brian Stevens, are you questioning Trump's height? I think he's the second tallest president that this country's ever had. Second or third. Abraham Lincoln was tall, and there was someone else. But I think, well, he's probably shrunk, but I think in his peak, Trump was 6'4", right?
look, if you're wanting more lies, she says you only did 52 miles. She says you didn't finish the wall. He says, I did finish the wall.
Okay, so here's an example, the very first one of Trump lying. Trump said, I finished the wall, but he didn't finish the wall. Now, I didn't, let me see if I can find this on Rumble. By the way, was I right? Could anybody find the full CNN town hall on YouTube? Because I couldn't. Is this just out of respect for CNN? And why didn't CNN leave it up? It's not on their page either. Maybe I just missed it. No, I'm not going to do that. Because Rumble doesn't have transcripts and I can't find it quickly. But here was my take on the wall thing. When Trump said I finished the wall, he's talking about what the 200 or some miles that he had planned to do, that he finished his plan. And that to say that every mile along would be along the border of Mexico was going to be done is just ridiculous, because some of it's water and some of it already had a wall. But the Democrats say he only did 52 miles of wall because that's places where there was absolutely no wall before, and now there's a wall. I've been to Nogales, Arizona. I've seen the wall there, at least in, what year was it? Oh man, it's probably 15 years ago now. But at that time, to say that was a wall is ridiculous. It was like a barbed wire fence that was half leaning down, and if you just took a nice run and you could just easily jump over it. But I think for a lot of people who have this propensity, this desire to call Trump a liar here, they would say, well, yeah, Trump didn't build a wall there. There was already a wall there. No, he built a wall there. A new wall that replaced basically no wall. So it gets into the semantics game. What do you mean by finish? Did you mean like every single mile along the border was going to be done no matter what? And, you know, Trump kind of made it sound that way when he was running for president. But is that hyperbole? Just like Cenk Uygur said right earlier that Trump lies 24/7. That's hyperbole, right? We allow that. So it becomes really wishy-washy.
He did 52 miles. How is that finishing it? He doesn't care. He doesn't care about what's true at all. And he knows that his audience, his voters, will believe anything he says. And for independents, if you say it strongly.
See, now is that a lie? Trump voters will believe anything he says. Where's your evidence for that? That's definitely true for some. Are you saying all Trump voters? Some Trump voters? Most Trump voters? 51% of Trump voters? There's a lot of people who voted for Trump and probably will vote for him again who don't agree with everything he says. Is this hyperbole again? Is this man lying to you? Or is he using hyperbole? You see how easy this is to break apart?
Enough, like, I wonder if he did finish the wall. Is the border only 52 miles? He says it so confidently. Guys, it's frustrating to all of us who care about the truth, but it works in politics. At a bare minimum, it confuses independents who don't know and throw up their hand and go, I can't tell who's right about the wall. And then they move on and base their vote on something else. He about the secret documents that he took home. He's like, Obama took.
Chad says, oh, come on. Do I need to pull the montage of Trump saying his big, beautiful wall? I don't even know what that is supposed to mean or accomplish. It's almost like you're not listening to what the words coming to my mouth, Chad.
No, he didn't. You made that up. Okay. And then he says, well, Biden took them to a Chinatown where they don't even speak English. Which Chinatown is that in America where you can't find anyone who speaks English?
Is that hyperbole when Trump says where no one speaks English? Does Trump lie 24/7? You see the consistency here? And I fact-checked that. Did Biden bring boxes to an office, confidential information, to a place in some place called Chinatown? Turns out, yeah, that's true. You can look it up. Google it. Just Google Biden confidential documents, Chinatown.
He says such outrageous things with such regularity and ease. It's amazing. You know, if you think that's a wondrous thing, I guess that's, you know, that's a talent of some sort. In politics, though, it kind of is.
How long says Pinecreek going full Jordan Peterson? It would take us 20 minutes to discuss what mean means. No. You see how very quickly I've just responded to Chad there. I'm pausing a lot, but I'm not using a lot of words.
Is because it helps him confuse people at a minimum and convince his own side whether he's right or wrong. Now,
So what are the two lies, that examples he's given so far? That Trump said, I finished the wall, and that Biden had confidential documents in a Chinatown. And from my research, the Chinatown one is correct, and the wall is, I think, semantics or hyperbole. When he says he finished the wall, it's not obvious that he's talking about every mile of the border.
Now, so how do you break down the lies? So, for example, Caitlin Collins challenged him a number of times on the election lies, and she started with that, and she went back to it 3, 4, 5 times. So you can't say she didn't do enough, and she mentioned the 60 court cases that he and his allies lost, and that's good, and I'm really glad she did. If she hadn't, I would have
This is the part where I strongly agree with him here.
been tearing my hair out. But I think the right way to frame that question, instead of, hey, did you lose? Will you admit you lost? You know he's not going to admit it. You know he's going to go to his talking points. Instead, you have look, and I'm not saying that any question is going to get a super clear answer or some sort of like a few good men like confession. Damn right, I ordered that code red. No, but it does put him on a more difficult spot. Hey, if you think that you have all this evidence, as you keep saying that the election was stolen, how come you didn't present any of it in the 60 court cases? And how come you lost every one of those cases?
Yeah, I wouldn't even go that far, but I agree with what Cenk is saying here in principle. That it does no good just to say, can you finally admit you lost the election? Because he's not. Get Trump to admit true. I would give him true or false questions. True or false? You've lost 60 court cases on the issue of election fraud. True or false? True or false? Judges, I don't think juries, but judges have concluded that the evidence is not sufficient to say that you would have won the election. True or false in these 60 cases? True or false? It'd be very difficult for Trump. He would avoid that question, I'm sure, like the plague, but it would at least it would allow people to see him not answer that true or false question. And I can't stress this enough. I think it's a mistake from Democrats just to throw out the word lie over and over again. Like, think of it this way, of a Trump supporter who really loves Trump, but is completely ignorant. Like, think of it like, a backwoods redneck type guy. So, yeah, the election was rigged. Trump won. Now be honest with yourself. Is this redneck, ignorant fool lying? I say no. This redneck is just wrong. But he truly believes what he's saying. He's sincere in what he's saying. He's even confident what he's saying, but he's wrong. Just like that Christian who says that Jesus rose from the dead. But I understand 42% of you thinks it's still a lie. And I think you got to look up the dictionary definition of what a lie is. You're welcome.
Now, that's a much harder question to answer than a generic thing of, no, the election wasn't stolen. Why do you keep saying that? That's kind of easy to answer. So, look, again, it's not like some giant criticism of Collins. It's just better framing or better questions gets to maybe clearer answers. But she did ask some good ones that got very clear answers. She asked, so who do you want to win, Ukraine or Russia?
Mitesh Patel, you have no idea. I'm not a Trump supporter. Has Trump losing all those court cases changed how you view Trump? No, it's irrelevant. I never thought that Trump won in the first place. It's amazing how brains work in this live stream chat.
And he wouldn't answer the question. Now, if he said, guys, then he did partially say this part. Hey, look, what does winning mean in a war? I want there to be less deaths. So that part of the answer is good, right? But it's not complicated. who the bad guys are here. And he did at one point say, yeah, Russia invaded and it was a mistake by Putin, like a strategic mistake. No, it's also a morally reprehensible thing to do. And between Russia and Ukraine, who do I want to come out ahead? It's not close. It's Ukraine.
It's Ukraine? Why?
Is it because I'm biased towards Ukrainians or I hate Russians? Of course not. It's because Russia invaded.
Yeah, it's because Russia invaded. Now, he catches himself. Like, he's a smart guy. And his brain is thinking, whenever you say something, you got to think how they can come back to bite you. And if you don't do that, it's going to come. You're going to say something that's going to come back to bite you. But he just said, Russia's the bad guy because they invaded. And so therefore, the question of who do you want to win, Russia or Ukraine, the answer is Ukraine because Russia's the bad guy. They invaded. Are you saying, Cenk Uygur, whatever, are you saying that you wanted the United States to lose in Iraq? I think he's forced to say yes.
Want the person who invaded to lose, especially, of course, under the circumstances where they invaded for no goddamn reason, which is most of the circumstances.
What? Russia invaded for no reason? You can call Russia evil, but they're not stupid. They had a reason. Probably billions and billions of dollars of military equipment down south in Crimea.
And if you say, hey, well, does that mean you didn't want the U.S. to be successful in Iraq? Well, we didn't have any business invading Iraq. So what's...
You had no business invading Iraq? None whatsoever? Forget about weapons of mass destruction. There's no other reasons to get rid of Saddam Hussein? You can't think of one? Like, I seriously think I got half my brain tied behind my back to make this fair. Like, who is him calling Trump a liar over and over again, like based on this certain definition of lie? Like, if you just say something incorrect, now you're lying. If you say something that's factually wrong, you're lying. And you say we absolutely had no business going into Iraq. There's not one reason. Really? Now, is that a lie? What about him killing, like, what was it, millions of his own people? I think even Christopher Hitchens was a great apologist for George W. Bush in the war in Iraq. I think he even said you could have taken weapons of mass destruction off the table and there was still just a justified, just war to get rid of Saddam Hussein for the human rights violations that he did.
For Russia is also true for us. Doesn't mean I wanted us to quote unquote lose, but you have to explain who the aggressor is and why they are at fault, as opposed to sharing the blame with innocent Ukrainians. So that makes no sense. But in that same back and forth, he did have, I think, his most correct answer and his most, I hate to use this word in the context of Trump, sophisticated answer, which was when they asked him if Putin is a war criminal, he said, well, look, you don't want to call him that because if you do, it makes a negotiated settlement harder, because if he thinks...
Sapir Odd asked, do you think Trump actually believes he won the election? Yeah, I think if we could get a pill, if Trump could take a pill that guarantees you, this is a thought experiment, that guarantees you that he's telling you what he actually, truly, truly believes. So he takes that pill and you ask him, do you think you won the 2020 election? I think he would take that pill and say, yes, I think I won it. And if that's based on the strict definition of lying, if what I said is true, he takes this pill, which forces him to tell the truth. You ask him, did you win the 2020 election? He says yes. Then everything he says about the election being rigged and then he won, he's not lying. He's wrong, or at least there's no evidence to show that he's right, but he's not lying.
That he's going to be prosecuted as a war criminal after the war, then he's not going to want to stop and he's not going to want to negotiate. That's actually true. That's actually true. And actually, like I said, it has some degree of nuance, and I totally accept that answer, and it makes sense. Am I not?
Trump's on camera saying he lost a few times. I would love to see that. Like, when you mean lost the, he's definitely admitted to losing, like, for example, clear-cut cases like California. But if he is on camera saying he lost a few times, like, then what's this fear that some Democrats have? But yeah, can you post a link?
Merciful, okay. Now on Pence, again, I wish that she had asked it in a slightly different way, because she asked about, look, they're going after Pence, the rioters are, and she had asked earlier about how long they waited. But you got to put those two things together and say, Mr. President, we've all seen the tape of your supporters chanting, "Hang Mike Pence, hang Mike Pence." That's your own vice president. But after you were made aware of that.
Oh, yeah. See, saw the other day when I lost the election. Yeah, but he would still say it was a fraudulent election, right? So this is like semantics. It's sort of like finishing the wall type thing. What do you actually mean by finishing the wall? What do you mean by lost the election? Well, I'm not in office, so I obviously lost in that sense, but it was a fraudulent election. So that's what he would say. And I think he truly believes that.
You waited for hours before you made the video telling your supporters to stop. And your own staff says...
See, now this is interesting to me. Early on, I think, before, I don't know, some people who might be ignorant of this whole January 6th thing will say Trump didn't tell his followers to, be peaceful and leave. Well, the truth is, he did say that. He said it before and after. But now the issue is he didn't say it after soon enough. It was 3 hours, and it should have been like 3 minutes or something. I don't know.
That you did not mind that they chanted that. So what? Okay, tell us about why you didn't mind that chant. He's going to deny it. I get that, right? But then say, why did you wait hours if you thought your own vice president's life was on the line, that your supporters were looking to execute him? That's a super tough question. He'll, of course...
Yeah, Brian Stevens, you make a good comment. Trump told us that healthcare plan was coming in 2 weeks. We never got it. Yeah. Now, is that lying? Or is that being wrong? Like, whenever you're trying to put legislation of a government into practice, into play, and you say that something's coming, and there's, like, do you give any type of, well, there's going to be things outside of one's control because of the three branches of government? Like, where do you draw the line between this, my goal is to have this healthcare plan coming in 2 weeks, I'm very confident it's going to happen, but if it doesn't happen, does that mean he's lying? The moral of the story is, I think when it comes to political discourse or even religious discourse, we should just get rid of that word, unless we got like... No, I just say just get rid of the word, because it doesn't help. It doesn't help to call people liars or evil. In other words, just do actions instead. Just don't vote for that person again. Because what you'll end up doing is like the backfire effect. If you call Trump a liar, and in some cases, I think he is. And I think there's one case coming up soon that he's going to mention next that I agreed with. But what you end up doing for the people who disagree with you, it emboldens them even more. You actually end up strengthening Trump's base by calling Trump a liar. You actually strengthen Trump's base by calling Trump a racist. Do you want to strengthen Trump's base? No, you say. I'm giving some free advice to the Democrats out there on how to deal with Trump. You don't want to embolden, you don't want to strengthen his base. And I think Trump has this effect on people that he just causes them to freak out. He's manipulating your emotions, and he can do it so incredibly easy. And my advice to left-leaning Democrats is don't let him. Be dead inside. Deader.
Prevaricate and obfuscate and all those things, and he'll do his bag of tricks. But at least the audience heard the truth, that he didn't give a damn that they were his supporters were trying to kill his own vice president. I mean, the fact that has any chance of winning.
Yeah, see, even that, like, what his support, like, Democrats are going to freak out when I say this. Some Democrats. But seriously, do you really think they were trying to kill the vice president that day? Like, I saw the news. Do you guys see the picture of the news? Do you think that news worked? Do you think you could actually put someone's head in there and you could kill someone with that? I mean, so much of this is pageantry. Now, there might have been a couple mentally ill Trump supporters there who you wouldn't want alone with Mike Pence in a room.
Any political office after that alone is unbelievable. Unbelievable. But he's currently leading. Forget being a candidate and being and allowed to.
Why is Trump leading? You've got to start asking, Democrats, you have to start asking yourself that question. Why is Trump leading Biden? As soon as you can become honest with your answers, and it's assuming the polls are right, okay? Which is a big assumption. Polls get things wrong all the time. But let's say the polls are correct and Trump is elections tomorrow and Trump wins. Ask yourself why. In fact, do it in the live stream chat now. If Trump were to win the election, why do you think he would win? I'm very curious if your answers are going to be policy related or if you're just going to say half the country's stupid. I mean, try to get specific. Even try to get into this is a good exercise. Try to get into the brain of let's say even a hardcore Trump supporter or even just like someone who leans right. Why would someone vote for Trump? Like, really try to put yourself in someone else's mindset and shoes.
To be a candidate and winning within the Republican Party. No, he's leading overall. And that shows you both that, well, one thing that it shows you for sure is that his opponents suck. They do not know how to target him correctly, for sure. Okay, but that's not.
Yes, that's what I just said. And I think you're part of the problem, Mr. Cenk Uygur. You don't know how to combat him other than just to call him a liar. Well, this guy is not as guilty as some others. But you have to focus on policies. You just can't say, oh, he puts fear in me with the democracy. That's not going to fly. You just can't say, well, he divides the country and makes some people cry and full of anxieties. That's not going to fly. At some point in your life, if you're a Democrat listening, you got to understand that most of the country could care less about your feelings and your emotions. You could cry all day long and be depressed, and most of the country's not going to care about you. You got to accept that. Your close family and friends will care, but other than that, no. You're on your own. If you want to defeat Trump, you got to go to policies.
Colin's job, her job is to ask questions. And then
yeah, man in charge, you got it, because of his economic and trade policies. Yeah, and then really dwindle that down. Like, why would someone vote for Trump based on economic and trade policies?
On the debt ceiling, he had his most honest answer. He said, "Oh my God, they got to make sure we could default. Let them default. Let them default if the Republicans don't get the deep cuts." Okay, and Caitlin Collins said, "Wait a minute, though. But when you were president, you didn't want to negotiate over the debt ceiling." He's like, "Yeah," and she's like, "Why?" He's like, "Because
Yeah, yes, Brian Stevens. I'm doing a lot of interaction with the chat. Hopefully, you guys don't mind. Some people say just let them play, let Chuck Younger play. But this is fun interacting with you guys. You're right. However, Trump gives speeches that are emotion. Hang on, where are you? Let me redo this. Why is my green screen acting up today? Do not know. You're right. However, Trump gives speeches that are emotion-based. He's all about the culture war. That's a bit of a hyperbole there. I would say, of course, all, but yeah, he uses this to his advantage. And as a voter, I think the goal should be not to let politicians manipulate you. This is why I advocate for everyone, just not me, to be more dead inside. Politicians could not manipulate you emotionally if you don't let him. Just don't let him. It's in your power. You, the voter, have that power not to be manipulated emotionally. Some people say this is like me saying, don't think about an elephant, and immediately you're thinking about an elephant. No, it's not the same thing.
back then I was president." And then the audience laughed and cheered. Like, what's hilarious about that is, okay, I give him credit for honesty that he's like, "Yeah, I'm a hypocrite." When I'm
Okay, remember what he said earlier? Trump lies 24/7. I'll give him credit. He's being honest here. Well, there's an example. He doesn't lie 24/7, right? Now, Doug, you're being too critical here. I mean, it was obviously hyperbole back then. Okay, so Trump uses hyperbole. This guy uses hyperbole.
president, I don't want to negotiate the debt ceiling, and I'm not going to give the Democrats anything. But when the Democrats president, we should kick his ass and endanger the whole entire global economy and maybe even crash it by defaulting. And that's because it's a Democrat in charge, and I want him to suffer, and I want the country to suffer under him. Well, I get grade A for honesty, right? He didn't specifically say the suffering part, but he clearly said, "Oh yeah, that's because I'm not president." And so he owns up to his hypocrisy there, and the crowd cheers. They're like, "Yes, we're hypocrites. Yes, we love it. Who cares about what's right?" And guys, that's a super important point, because Democrats live in the old world where they
Yeah, now, is it really hypocrisy? Like, when you have a role as president, you're going to act one way. And when you have a role as a citizen, a voter, or a candidate, you're going to act a different way. I kind of lean towards agreeing here that this is hypocrisy, that I'm against negotiations when it comes to debt ceiling as a non-president, but for it as president. I can see how that looks hypocritical, and I lean towards it is. But you got to admit, Trump has a point, and this is what makes Trump so popular too, that Trump could just come out and say it. You guys saw that SNL sketch where Chappelle, the comedian, said this is what attracted a lot of voters to Trump. That he'll say, yeah, the tax system, the tax code is, did he use the word corrupt? He goes, yeah, it's corrupt. And I know it's corrupt because I use it. And so do all your donors, Mrs. Hillary Clinton. Like, people listen to that and they go, you know what? I'm more willing to vote for a politician that can just admit when they're, scamming the tax code. When they're not scamming it, they're using it to their benefit. And same thing here. People the Trump supporters are going to love that he said, well, yeah, I acted this way because I was president. Now I'm acting this way because I'm not. That's just science. If you want to call that hypocrisy, go ahead. But you would do the same thing. I bet you that's what Trump would say, or what he was thinking. If you were me, you would do the same thing.
They think things like that matter. Like, oh my God, he would have lost under these, the Queensberry rules on how to debate or whatever. No, they don't care that he's a hypocrite, because a lot of, especially for right wingers, they just want power, and they don't like your thoughts of what's ironic, hypocritical, not fair. They don't care. So I thought that was super telling. On gun shooting,
Brian, I tend to disagree with you here. Both Republicans and Democrats want the country worse off when the other group is in power. Oh, yeah, actually, no. Sorry, I misread. Yeah, I tend to agree with you here. We are fed as a country because of absurd two-party. Yeah, it's you always want to make the other party look bad, right? So when the country is worse off, when the Democrats are in power, the Republicans cheer and vice versa. I agree with that. And that has to stop too. Like, wouldn't it be refreshing if the Democrats were in power and everything, the economy was good, peacetime, whatever metrics you want to use are very positive. And the Republicans say, hey, you know what, Mr. Democrat President, you did a good job. You know what, Democrat House and Senate, you guys did a good job this tenure. Wouldn't that be refreshing? And vice versa. Could a Democrat say that about a Republican president, Congress, Senate? Great job. I mean, the country's better off, so I don't care if you're Republican, because the country's better off. Excellent. But we become so divided, so hateful. Got to become more dead inside.
shootings, they say, in that case, the questioner was from the audience. By the way, Ian McIntyre, thank you for the super chat and the video if you want to sign up now. You guys make all this possible, and that's why I read your comments from time to time. But the questioner there says, now we've had all these mass shootings, Mr. President, and I want to know what you're going to do to protect. And I genuinely thought he was going to say the kids or people and stuff. Of course, what was I thinking, knucklehead? No, he answers, what are you going to do to protect our guns? What if they take some of our guns and we can't kill all these people?
I haven't double checked it, but I saw something about, is it Sweden or Switzerland? One of those two countries, a European country that starts with S, has a law that you have to take a class, you have to know how to use a firearm, or you have to own a firearm. Have you guys ever heard this before? That there's a European country that makes you either own a firearm and know how to use it, or every citizen has to be able to use a firearm. And they compared a South American country to this, I think either Switzerland or Sweden, and same population, one very strict gun laws, one basically very lax, and the crime is way lower. You've heard of it, Oak River? Yeah, someone can fact check me on that. But that's an interesting stat, because I've seen stats that show the more guns, the more suicides, of course, and gun violence. But in other countries, you see different results. Yeah, it is Switzerland. Okay. Thanks, Hillary. It'd be interesting to see what would happen in the United States. Now, okay, please, if you're a left-leaning Democrat, a granola crunching tree hugger, please I'm thinking out loud here, so don't freak out. But what would happen in the United States if it became law that every person, every citizen above a certain age, let's say 25, 21, 18, whatever, that's up to debate, has to have a concealed carry license? Can you imagine? So every person you meet on the street could potentially be packing. Everyone, because it's a law. You have to have that license. And if you have the license, that means, a higher probability you're actually packing. What would that do to crime? Like if you are a burglar, if you're a robber, you're going to think twice. Seriously, you're going to think twice. Every home that you go into now, almost guaranteed there's a gun in there. Every person you try to mug on the street, in that purse, very high probability there's a gun in there. You're going to take that chance? You go into a bank, everyone lined up to see the teller is packing. Heat, Glocks. Every school you go into, every teacher has a pistol. Now, the question is, if we run that thought experiment, would the gun violence go up, down, or stay the same? I don't know the answer to that. I think you would definitely have more accidents. You'd definitely have more suicides. But would you have more active crime violence? I don't know. Should we try it?
And Trump loves that question, of course. He's like, oh, no, I'm never going to let them take any of your guns, nothing, no gun control, maybe less gun control. They're just brazen. They don't care. Then a woman gets up, she's a registered.
Yeah, good point, Glenroy. You would have to have some type of safeguards if you're mentally ill. If you've ever been told by a doctor you suffer from a mental illness, you don't get the gun.
Nurse, a Republican, I think she voted for Trump, if I remember right. But she asked a tough question. She says, look, because of you overturn Roe v. Wade, now women are concerned. So what do you say to women? He's like, well, I'm so proud that I overturned Roe v. Wade. So proud of it. Okay. He never comes back to the issue of what do you say to women?
Okay, yeah, good point. He didn't. I watched that. So Roe v. Wade overturned. What do you say to the women? If I was him, I would have said, that does not make abortion illegal in every state. Roe v. Wade being overturned does not make abortion illegal. It's a state's issue now. So if you're a woman and you have an unwanted pregnancy, then go to a state that allows an abortion. That's what I would have said if I was Trump. And if you're going to cry to me about I can't afford to drive into another state and get an abortion, then maybe you should have thought about that before you let a penis go into your vagina. Or you should have thought of that before you had unprotected sex. Now that would have been a fun thing to say.
To address their concerns. He only talks about, yeah, we overturned it. What are you going to do now? Ha ha! I win. I put all those conservatives on the Supreme Court. And again, for Republicans and right-wingers, they do love that. I get why he's bragging about it as a matter of strategy. But it's amazing that he didn't bother to turn around and say, but hey, look, I care about those women.
Well, no, but he doesn't, though. And it's like some Democrats have this erroneous idea that the President of the United States has to care about every individual in the minutia of their life. Like, now, they have a responsibility. The President has a responsibility to protect the citizens of the United States. But whether you can afford to go to cross state lines to get an abortion, that's not his problem. That's the woman's problem. And this is the key difference between some people who lean left and some people who lean right. It's like, no, the government should be helping me on all these little areas of my life. Not little, all these areas of my life. No, there's some things you have to take responsibility for. That's the difference between someone who leans right and leans left. It goes from abortion to healthcare. Like, no, you don't have a right to healthcare. Sorry, you don't. It's not a right in this country. And if you think it should be, then you got to give good arguments. on why it should be, and you got to convince the populace to make a change to the Constitution. But it's not a right for everyone to have a house, to have health care, to even have education. It's not a right.
No, care about protecting their rights. And here's where
Chuck Neiman says healthcare is a right in the world. Why do you say that, Chuck? On what do you base that on? Your feelings? Anybody who says healthcare is a right, you got to show me why. In the United States of America, healthcare is not a right. Now, you can say it should be, but to say it is a right, I think you're factually incorrect. I think it's a right in the Constitution. Well, are you saying that the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness makes healthcare a right? Because I think that's the closest you can get.
stand on it, blah, blah, blah. Nope, don't care. Not going to protect them. Moving on. And thank you for joining. We appreciate it. We even have "and" as a member now. You can't be radical ones here. They want the abortion to go all the way to the 9th month and beyond after the birth. That's not a thing. Every Republican who says that is an incredible liar. Nobody. It's if it's after birth, it's by definition not an abortion. That's an independent human being, lives outside the fetus, outside the uterus. That's a human being. That's not even called abortion. That's called murder if you kill that baby. No one is in favor of that. Zero. But
yes, Brian Stevens, I agree with you here. Keeping a healthy population improves the workforce. Keeping people working, keep them busy. I agree that. So you're saying that you're making a good argument. You're making an argument that maybe we should have universal health care because that will improve the workforce, and if that improves the workforce, that will keep people busy, and that reduces crime. See, this is how you do it, Democrats. You give reasons. You just don't make a declaration, something's a right, so therefore I should have it. Make good arguments on why it would benefit everyone to do it. But one could say that keeping a healthy population is not the government's role. So how do you keep a healthy population? Well, maybe eat a little less McDonald's, eat a little more greens, exercise, go on a scale once a week. Like basically, I'm doing the role of what I think Brian Stevens thinks the government should be doing, but I'm doing it right now for free, no taxpayer dollars. Go stand on the scale once a week. And if you are gaining weight, overweight, eat less, exercise more. Take responsibility for your life. If you find yourself unemployed, look for things around the house to do while you're looking for work. Keep yourself busy. Oh, that garage is dirty, it's messy and cluttered. Maybe you should clean it while you're looking for work, while you have a spare hour or two. Take pride in the little things you do. Keep yourself busy. You'll be less depressed, less anxious. You'll be healthier. And by the way, everything I just said, no government required. But for some reason, I think some Democrats hate to hear me say this. That you actually can control things in your life.
Every Republican, almost every one of them lies. Oh, yeah, there was this Virginia governor in a radio show. We're misinterpreting what he said, so we think all Democrats.
This guy here definitely needs to be a little more dead inside.
Want to kill the babies as soon as they're born. They slit the throat, and they believe it. And they believe it. Come on, guys. It's a preposterous lie. But that's Trump. That's the Republicans. On the documents, why did you take them? He never answered why he took them. He just like, I can. They took more. They took them to Chinatown. They don't speak Chinese there. I can take them. Okay, they're all declassified as soon as I look at them. But why did you take them? Why did you bother taking them home? No answer, because But there was a critical part of an answer in that one. So she said, "Did anybody else see them?" He's like, "I don't remember." Oh my God, he showed them to
He said, "Not really."
other people. If he didn't show them to anyone, you know what he's doing. No way.
But he could have said, well, it's none of your business. Yeah, you asked me a question and I'm not going to answer it. Anyhow, I think enough of this guy. There was one more thing I wanted to do. How long have I been going? This is fun. An hour 41. I would like to go through that chapter 5 of J.K. Rowling. Yeah, I'll do that, but I won't play as much as I had planned. Let's see. So I've been going through the interview of Megan Phelps. And this is called Chapter 5, the tweets. This is the tweet she actually made that got her in trouble about the whole trans thing. And basically, the moral of the story here is this whole trans issue is causing a wedge between people in the queer community, the feminists and the gays, lesbians. A lot of them really don't like the trans issue because if you think about it, if sex is this construct, which some people in the trans agenda say, not all, or if sex is a distribution, which some say, not all, then this whole idea of same-sex attraction or opposite-sex attraction now comes into question. And of course, there's other issues.
Chapter 5. The tweets. Let's talk about the tweets.
Let's talk about them.
On the 19th of December, 2019, J.K. Rowling finally jumped into the public conversation around sex and gender. By that point, she'd spent years following the debate and had become increasingly concerned about what she saw as a vocal group of trans rights advocates unfairly targeting feminists who disagreed with them. So she weighed in with a tweet.
Would you be willing to read the tweet that you wrote that day? Yeah. I tweeted, "Dress however you please. Call yourself whatever you like. Sleep with any consenting adult who'll have you. Live your best life in peace and security. But force women out of their jobs for stating that sex is real. Hashtag I stand with Maya. Hashtag this is not a drill."
What did you want to accomplish with that tweet?
This tweet was in response to the Maya Forstater case.
Maya Forstater had posted a series of messages on social media opposing the government's proposals to reform the Gender Recognition Act.
Maya Forstater posted a number of tweets expressing her beliefs, and her contract with her employer was not renewed after a number of her colleagues complained. She lost her original...
The incident that would finally push Rowling into speaking publicly involved a woman named Maya Forstater, who had spoken out online against the so-called self-ID proposal in the UK. She asserted that biological sex was unchangeable and that this law would undermine women's rights.
After posting tweets like "men cannot change into women," she was accused of offensive language and lost her job.
She was called a bigot, a transphobe, and a danger to trans people. Some of her colleagues complained, and ultimately, the nonprofit where she worked did not renew her contract. And so...
Yeah, I don't get this. I don't understand. I don't understand. I don't understand how someone's saying sex, there's only two sexes, that you can't go from one sex to another sex biologically. Like you can take things off, add things on, but you're still what you were born with. I don't understand why hearing that causes some people so much pain. Like you can disagree with someone, right? And so if I really try to put myself in their shoes, okay, why is that hurtful to hear? Because you're saying that I'm wrong or I'm not who I think I am. Yeah, I am saying that. I am saying you're wrong and you're not who you think you are. But that hurts me. Why does it hurt you? It doesn't make me feel good. Well, so? This is what I don't get is like, when people disagree and it causes other people to feel bad, what's the big deal? Can someone explain this to me? Like, the closest I can come to understanding this is to put it in perspective of children. Like, you don't want to look at a 6-year-old and say, you're ugly. Or you're just call a really bad name. Because a child is developing and their sense of identity and doesn't really know who they are. They're very fragile. So the only way I can understand and empathize with a trans person is to treat them like a child. But do you want me to do that? Do you want me to treat you like a child? Because if a stranger comes up to me and said, Doug, you're ugly. Okay. Doug, you're really a woman. Okay. Doug, you're evil. Okay. Doug, you're racist. Okay. Doug, you're a transphobe. Okay. Like, jibber jabber all you want. Just don't come in my house and try to kill me and my family. But you can say whatever you want. Now, am I just so privileged that I was raised well and know who I am that I can do with this? Or is my expectations out of whack that adults should be able to do this too? Yeah, no, Glenn Roy, you're making my point. I don't think J.K. Rowling should be upset about being called names either, but she is. I don't know. Maybe we should make it a law that everyone should be called racist and transphobe just to numb everyone to that type of pain. Because on the one hand, J.K. Rowling got really upset that her fan base turned on her. But on the other hand, she says stuff like, as we're about to hear, she says stuff like, I don't care what people think, I care what people do. She says this coming up.
She decided to fight this, claiming that she'd been the victim of unlawful discrimination.
Disagreement is not harassment. People can have different views and we ought to be able to talk about them.
This is Forstatter, speaking with a journalist for Sky News.
Gender critical belief, which is the absolutely ordinary belief about sex, that your mother and your grandmother are women, that being female is a thing, is worthy of respect in a democratic society, and people who hold that belief shouldn't be discriminated against or harassed for expressing it.
Yeah, a lot of people say bad things about me because I'm spending so much time on this trans issue, but there's a bigger issue underlying the trans issue, and that's the issue of saying things that, it's basically a free speech issue, of being able to say things that deeply hurt people emotionally. I think that should be okay and legal. Because there's going to be times where saying things that really hurt people emotionally is actually the actual truth, but we should still be able to say it. So it's a foundational, one of the things I value greatly, and there's very few things that I value greatly, but that's one of them. The ability for people to share ideas and figure out what is truth in a particular area. And if we can't do that because of the way people feel emotionally, we're in trouble.
In the UK, they have what's known as an employment tribunal, which is a dedicated part of the legal system that exclusively deals with disputes between employers and employees. When Forstatter took her former employer to this court, she said that, as a citizen of a democracy, She had a right to voice her criticism of a proposed law in public, but a few of her colleagues saw her words as crossing the line into transphobia. Forstatter's comments in dispute before the court read, in part, "Everyone's equality and safety should be protected, but women and girls lose out on privacy, safety, and fairness if males are allowed into changing rooms, dormitories, prisons, and sports teams." She also wrote, "Of course, in social situations, I would treat any trans women as an honorary female and use whatever pronouns, etc. I wouldn't try to hurt anyone's feelings, but I don't think people should be compelled to play along with literal delusions like trans women are women." In December 2019, the judge ruled against Forstatter. In the published ruling, he wrote that Forstatter's belief, quote, "is not a philosophical belief protected by British law." He wrote, "I consider that the claimant's view, in its absolutist nature, is incompatible with human dignity and fundamental rights of others."
The judgment said...
Yeah, I disagree with this judge in the UK. I mean, where do you draw this line of... Like, I always bring up the religious one. If someone comes out and says, Christianity is false. Jesus never was God, never rose from the dead. The whole story about Yahweh in the Old Testament's made up. Like, Yahweh doesn't exist. And the character portrayed as Yahweh is a schmuck. Okay, now, there's Christians out there who are going to start crying, get depressed and anxious because of those words they just heard me utter. Is my speech, what I just said, not protected? Is there an exception now? What if I don't pick on Christianity, but I pick on Islam, which is, I guess, in some people's view, a religion of a minority, people with darker skin? Does it make it worse now if I offend people with darker skin than me? Islam is false. Allah is not real. Allah didn't talk to a guy in a cave named Muhammad. The Quran is purely man-made. Sharia law is mostly bad. It's okay to draw pictures of Muhammad. Now, I just uttered some words. Some people might hear this in the future and it might cause them displeasure. Should I be silenced? Like, these are the real fundamental issues of being able to say things that people strongly and emotionally disagree with and still having the right to say it. Because you know what? I could be right about Islam. You know what? I could be right about Christianity. And those things kind of matter, right? And you know what? Oh, I haven't made a claim. Trans women are not real women. Trans men are not real men. Boom. There, I said it. You know what? I could be right about that. Actually, by definition, I'm right because I define woman as an adult female and man as an adult male.
Basically, her speech in this case could not be protected because it was not worthy of respect in a democratic society.
This is Kathleen Stock, a philosopher, writer, and for many years, a professor at the University of Sussex.
This was shocking to me, very shocking to me, because first of all, it seemed like the judge had completely lost the plot. Secondly, it made a big material difference to any other woman who was in an employment situation and who went online to express reasonable worries about a policy that says that any man can legally become a woman just by saying that he is.
Over the past few years, Stock has become one of the most vocal
Yeah, and I can hear the voices of some people who disagree with all this saying, well, that's not the case. I mean, you just can't say you're a man. You got to go to a therapist, several meetings. Fair enough, but we do have some testimonials of people claiming that, you know, just by declaring you're a woman makes you one. Right? Some people do say that.
in all of the UK on behalf of the feminist side in the debate about self-ID. And she saw this ruling as a danger to free speech in a democratic society.
So I then went to my blog in a fury, really, and typed out quite a short piece called "This Is Not a Drill."
In the hours after the ruling, she wrote a call to action directed at her fellow academics.
So I made a call in this blog post to them directly. I call upon you to stand up and say that there should be free speech on this issue. And I was always very careful to distinguish between the position of someone like Maya, who thinks that there are significant problems with the idea you can change your sex, for instance, and the right of us to say it, even if we're wrong. So my plea to academics was to stand up for the principle that you should be legally permitted to believe and say that biological sex is immutable without fear of losing your job.
Yeah, to me that seems so incredibly reasonable. You should be free to state your opinion that you can't change sexes, that real women are born that way. And you can disagree with people, but still allow them to say it. This gets back to AOC saying things like, you know, Trump shouldn't be given a platform because I disagree with him. Or he hurts people. Trump should not be given a platform because he hurts people's feelings. So?
Even if it turns out that we're wrong, we should still absolutely have the right to say it. The whole point of a university is to contest groupthink or received wisdom. Maybe that contestation will only serve to reinforce the groupthink, but at least it would have been tested, and it has to be tested because there's so many instances from history of where groupthink can go wrong, severely wrong, either empirically or ethically.
Yes, this is why free speech is so important. Freer speech, I should say. Because we know throughout history, groupthink is a very dangerous thing. That it's actually good to have, if like close to 100% of people all agree on something, it's good to have that 1 or 2% who say, no. Like it's, in a way, let me even say this, in a way it's good to have 1 to 2% of the population who say the earth is flat or that we never went to the moon. Because it even makes the reasons and the arguments for that we went to the moon or that the earth is a globe even stronger in a way, because there is some pushback. Okay, I'm going to fast forward it here.
And scum and all the other words that are used, and that it's an easy step to punch all turfs, I kill turfs. This baseball bat will be used to smash in the... I've literally seen there is no point in arguing with a turf. We need to make them too frightened to speak.
As all these tweets and other responses are coming in, and you're sitting there reading them, how did you feel?
How did I feel? Was it nice? Was it fun? No, it's horrible. Mm-hmm. It's horrible because it's the scale. I think people who have never been in that position, it is the scale, even though I knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. But that's like knowing you're about to be punched. You know, this is going to really hurt.
Yeah.
It's still, you know, you really need to take the punch to know how much it hurts.
You know, what's interesting about all this is the reasoning I often hear is some speech shouldn't be allowed or given a platform because it hurts people. What do you think is more likely, that J.K. Rowling would punch a trans activist in the face with her fist, or vice versa? It's vice versa, right? Is there anybody who disagrees with that? If you've read any or listened to any of the tweets, and I fast forward most of them, or all of them, it is pretty clear to me that a trans activist, on average, more likely to do physical harm to J.K. Rowling than vice versa. Even a trans activist who's her build, her size, her age. I'm saying that they're so emotional and so crazy that they're more likely to punch her physically, do harm. So this whole argument that you can't say certain things because it will end up harming people, not only emotionally, but physically. Well, it seems like the opposite's true. Those who are trying to defend this are more likely to do the punching and the physical damage.
Was it fun? No. Was I enjoying myself? No.
When my producers and I started going through the responses to Rowling's tweets, even though we knew there'd be many threats and unhinged comments because, of course, this is the internet, we weren't prepared for the sheer volume of violent sexual threats that we found. It's hard to know exact numbers because Twitter has a policy of removing these tweets, but by our count, On top of the thousands that we saw that are still public, hundreds more have either been deleted by Twitter or removed by the authors. Even if you just go to Twitter right now and type in J.K. Rowling's name, you'll see that these sorts of comments are seemingly endless. And they aren't just coming from online trolls writing from behind anonymous profiles. And they didn't just stay online. Rowling's home address was doxed, and law enforcement contacted her to say they were investigating credible threats of violence. And Rowling, in response to the hostility flowing in her direction, posted a tweet that read, "Feminazi, TERF, bitch, witch. Times change, woman hate is eternal." But that just led to hundreds of people accusing her, one of the wealthiest, most privileged women in the world, of trying to paint herself as a victim. Over the next 48 hours, the denunciations continued. There was a torrent of negative headlines in news outlets around the globe calling her transphobic. Then, the actors who'd starred in the Harry Potter films began releasing statements and distancing themselves from her, including Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, and Bonnie Wright.
Cowards, in my opinion. Cowards. Maybe they truly believed it, but to me it's like, gotta keep my fan base. They're definitely not as rich as J.K. Rowling, so they need to work in the future.
All of whom had known Rowling since they were children.
Some of the voices who've been critical include the stars of her own movie, including the biggest star, Daniel Radcliffe.
That's right. Harry Potter himself responded. And in that statement, he wrote, "Transgender women are women. Any statement to the contrary erases the identity and dignity of transgender."
See, the thing is, even that, just like, it depends on how you define woman, right? And a lot of people on the left will refuse to define woman, and the people on the right who define it as an adult female, biological female, then they're right by definition. A trans woman is not a woman. It's almost an axiom because of how they define the word woman. Now, you can disagree with that, but the fact that you would fly off the handle and get emotionally upset about that shows that you're still a child.
People and goes against
Warner Brothers, the studio that released the Harry Potter films, released a statement that didn't denounce JK by name, but said they support the trans community and inclusivity.
On June 10th, 2020, 4 days after her initial tweets, Rowling published an essay on her website, expanding on her views. "This isn't an easy piece to write," she begins, "for reasons that will shortly become clear. But I know it's time to explain myself on an issue surrounded by toxicity. I write this without any desire to add to that toxicity." She then listed her reasons for speaking up, that she had concerns for women-only spaces, like prisons and domestic violence shelters, that she worried about children not old enough to make life-altering medical decisions, that, as the author of a series frequently targeted by book bans, she was alarmed by the way conversations and debates were being shut down. Then, she shared a personal story which she hadn't revealed until this moment. Not just that she had been abused by her ex-husband, but that separately, she had also suffered a serious sexual assault.
Yeah, the problem is, it seems like you can give, just like Brian Stevens was giving great arguments before about maybe why we should have universal health care. If you give arguments to someone who's a trans activist or whatever, someone on the far left, that we don't want women to be raped, right? We're all agreed with that. And so if a man just declares himself a woman and then walks into a change room or a bathroom, as rare as that could be, we're still agreed, right, that that's bad and we should not allow that. We're agreed, yes? Like, this is the way you appeal to people's emotions and in a good way, and you convince people in a good way to see your side of things. And we have evidence that this has happened in the past, as recently as that prison situation, women being raped in prison by men. Like, we don't want that, right? But the emotions are so incredibly high that it's like, no, J.K. Rowling's a transphobe. Shut up. Don't listen to her. But what if she's making good arguments? You don't want to listen to good arguments? What if there's things that you share in common that you both want or don't want? You still don't want to listen to her? My motto of be a little more dead inside is starting to make sense now, right?
She wrote, I've been in the public eye now for over 20 years and have never talked publicly about being a domestic abuse and sexual assault survivor. This isn't because I'm ashamed those things happened to me, but because they're traumatic to revisit and remember. I'm mentioning these things now, not in an attempt to garner sympathy, but out of solidarity with the huge numbers of women who have histories like mine, who have been slurred as bigots for having concerns around single-sex spaces. If you could come inside
my head and understand what I feel when I read about a trans woman dying at the hands of a violent man, you'd find solidarity and kinship. I have a visceral sense of the terror in which those trans women will have spent their last seconds on Earth, because I too have known moments of blind fear when I realized that the only thing keeping me alive was the shaky self-restraint of my attacker. I believe the majority of trans-identified people not only pose zero threat to others, but
Brian Stevens says, I don't think the prison example is good. I think it's good. We know prisoners abuse prisoners. True, I agree. Men abuse men. True, I agree. Women abuse women. True, I agree. It's a horrible but not a good example of why it's a problem. Okay, would you agree that men raping women is bad, Brian? Yes. So we don't want that. Do you agree that men on average are bigger, stronger than women? Yes. See, I think this is a good example because of that mismatch in size. Yes, we don't want men raping men in prison if it's not consensual. Well, rape by definition isn't. But there's a reason why men, if given a choice, let's say Brian, well, you're gay, right? So you're a bad example. Let's say me. Let's say I end up in prison, maximum security federal prison, and I had a choice to go to a female maximum security prison or a male maximum security prison. And I'm not gay. I don't want anything shoved up my butt. Okay? And I have a choice. Where am I going to go, Brian? I'm going to go to the female prison. Now, let's say I'm a guy who doesn't want anything shoved up his butt, but I'm very horny. Very horny. High testosterone. I have a choice. Either I get to go a male prison or a female prison. What am I going to choose, Brian?
vulnerable for all the reasons I've outlined. Trans people need and deserve protection. Like women, they're most likely to be killed by sexual partners. Trans women who work in the sex industry, particularly trans women of colour, are at particular risk. Like every other...
Is a man raping a woman worse than a man? Is a man raping a woman worse than a man raping a man? Yes, I would say.
The domestic abuse and sexual assault survivor I know, I feel nothing but empathy and solidarity.
Because of this size issue that I'm talking about.
With trans women who've been abused by men. So I want trans women to be safe. At the same time, I do not want to make natal girls and women less safe.
I would say a man raping a child is worse than a man raping a man. I would say a man raping a child is worse than a man raping a woman. I'm being consistent here. It's all based on size. No, I'm saying they're all bad. But if you force me to, which you are, put a hierarchy to it, yeah.
And you throw open the doors of bathrooms and changing rooms to any man who believes or feels he's a woman. And, as I've said, gender confirmation certificates may now be granted without any need for surgery or hormones. Then you open the door to any and all men who wish to come inside. That is...
No pun intended. Okay, I'm going to wrap this up. I really resonated with J.K. Rowling here.
Passionate thing. So, yeah, it's really a psychological battle to stay strong and not take on.
Oh, good point by Amy Newman. Not Amy Newman. Laren Mobile. There's pregnancy too. Yeah, there's bigger consequences with impregnating or raping a woman because she can get pregnant. You can't get a man pregnant. You can't get a real man pregnant, I should say.
The projections that are coming at you in the moment. That's how it felt. And I didn't always succeed.
What do you say to the people who say that's just accountability?
Look, I've heard this all the time. We're holding you accountable. We're holding you accountable. Well, I would say this. I'm a great believer in looking at not what people say, but what they do. How are you behaving?
It warms. I know I'm dead inside, but it warms my heart to hear a left-winging, liberal-type woman, feminist, say this.
Accountable. Well, I would say this. I'm a great believer in looking at not what people say, but what they do.
Yes. Amen. Hallelujah. Actions speak louder than words. And I think I'll end it there. Does anybody want to talk to me and come in? Doesn't matter to me. I'm open to it. Or I can just read the live stream chat. But I'm not going to open my whereby unless someone tags me and says, yeah, I want to come on. That's big. A little too big. How about a kid raping a man? Yeah, I'm against it. You want me to rank all these horrible things? It's not as bad as those other things. Still bad, though. True. You're right, Amy. She wrote her book under a... Well, not a male's name, but she made it ambiguous. If a small man rapes a big woman, is that better than a big man raping a small and average? Yes, that is better. I'm being consistent. It's based on size. Like, the big woman at least has a chance to defend herself against a small man. That's the reasoning behind it. You're going to keep asking more questions on this? Like, imagine a huge MMA fighter woman and a chest playing, nerdy, 105-pound man. Now, he might know jiu-jitsu. Now it's getting silly. You're not allowed to use that word, J and W. Small people, we say. I love the Norm Macdonald joke when he was on, was it Conan? And there was a supermodel on, a woman, supermodel woman. And she was asked, what does it take to be a supermodel? And she kind of struggled answering it. She was being politically correct. She didn't just want to come out and say you have to be gorgeous. But Norm Macdonald weighed in and said, I know what it takes to be a supermodel. Well, yeah, what's that, Norm? Don't be a midget. By the way, the other day when I tested YouTube, the censorship, they didn't censor me. So that was good. I forget what I used to test it. Well, I purposely misgendered someone to see what would happen. Someone asked about some famous trans people what bathrooms they go. One person I didn't know, the other person I knew. I think to be safe, you could just have like those most places have family bathrooms. Just go in there. And if trans people make up a very tiny percentage of the population, there should never be a problem with overcrowding. If I go like that, yeah, that goes away. Yeah. Does anybody want to come in? I am getting tired of the trans issue, but the deeper issue underneath it is the free speech issue. The right to make people feel bad, I think, is very important. I say it that way on purpose, but the politically correct way of saying the same thing is the right to share ideas that others might find uncomfortable. It's the same idea. But it sounds catchier just to say we should have the right to make people cry. Because it tends to force some people on the left or right to check their emotions. So if you came late, we talked about should the age of voting go up, down, stay the same. We had, what was it? Something like 59% said it should definitely not go up. And 80-some% said definitely should not go down. So more people were against it going down. And I think for good reason, because young people tend to be ignorant, hormonal. In my community, a tall, muscular young man who uses many women cruelly sexually has decided to identify as female now. I want to avoid the locker room, but I also want to warn girls. Well, warn girls then. How do you know he's used many women cruelly sexually? If he's done that to you, if you're a woman, then you can speak to your own personal lived experience. That will be powerful to warn these young women. The proper response is to call people misgendering people on purpose passive-aggressive bitches and carry on. But you do realize how long that has zero impact, right? Have I decided if I will vote on Trump next year? No, I have not decided. I haven't even registered yet. I guess I got to do that soon. I guess, and I don't have to register, I don't think. Maybe I'll vote for a third party. But I don't even know what third party I might vote for yet. I think in how long, one way you can look at it as a productive thing is when you purposely misgender someone, view it as a way to help the trans person get stronger. Like, do you want trans people to get emotionally stronger or not? In general, I'm not saying this has to be the way, but it shuts them up when I'm around. Oh, it wouldn't shut me up. I mean, I would be calm and I would I'd probably smirk. If you said that to my face, I'd just smirk at you. I would say, why so emotional? Are you a violent man? How long? Do you lose control of your emotions often? Maybe that's why they shut up around you, because they fear that you're the type of person who can't keep it together and could punch them in the face at any time. And it's not worth it. Well, if you want, you can come on right now and try to trigger me. I enjoy a good try. What's the advantage of people getting emotionally stronger? Great question. They're less manipulated by narcissists. They're less manipulated by bullies. They're more likely to be able to look at evidence more objectively. These are all my opinions. You're large and intimidating, but very calm. Oh yeah, so you are a type of bully then. You use your size to call people bitches, and just one of these days though, you got to be careful how long, because if you're a big guy but you don't have skills on the fighting issue, and if you tick off the wrong guy at the wrong time, you might go to the hospital with a broken arm. Just saying, got to be careful. Or maybe you just say this to guys who are half your size to make you feel good. How am I doing in triggering you? Some people say I do the same thing, except on an intellectual level. Yes, I bully bullies. And that gives you a sense of meaning and purpose, that you're a good guy. That you're justified. I hear you. Yeah, Brian, encourage him. You can hop in. Do you want to come in? If you want to come in, I'll give the link. I'll purposely misgender someone, and then you can go to town on me. We'll see if it works. You know it's not going to work, so you won't come in. Or we can role play, like I can role play misgendering someone, and so it's not personal, and then you can tell me what your strategy is, and if you think you're accomplishing anything. Do you have any homosexuals in your family? Probably, but I don't know. Like when you say, I'm assuming extended family. Can't think of any off the top of my head. I'm trying to think of men who like fashion. Nah. Women who like shoveling manure. I got lots of those, but they're not gay. Confirmed bachelors. There's not a lot of bachelors in my family, extended family either. Or bachelorettes. Mennonites tend to be fairly normal. They tend to get married, have kids. Maybe they're still gay though, who knows? Most of them are still happy, though. Yeah, I said it. Gays are... You're abnormal, Brian. But you should take that as a compliment. If you're gay, you're abnormal. And you should be proud of that. That's why I don't even get this pronoun thing. Like why do you want to normalize things? Just, again, it's about feelings, right? Like, don't you want to be different? Then stop trying to normalize things. Don't you want to be special? Everybody wants to be special. I'm curious why my being impolite to someone being impolite is wrong, regardless of its effective. Well, no, the question is why are you doing it? I'm not making a wrong or right thing right now. I'm not judging you wrong or right. I'm just saying, what's your goal? Is it just to have fun? If that's it, then okay. Or do you actually have a deeper, greater meaning to you calling people bitches? But, you know, having fun's not bad. Just because you're unique doesn't make you useful. That's true. I think anti-religion is more interesting. Well, yeah, of course. That's why I got the other channel. You think Steven Crowder's gay? You might be. I don't know. Why do you think he's gay? I think you just admitted that you've normalized being different. Congrats, you lib. Not sure I understand that. I think straight people should stop being insecure if they are gay. Yes, Paulogia was a Mennonite. And his wife left him because he became an atheist, I think. Terrible. Hey, Paulogia's ex-wife, if you ever hear this someday, I judge you. As being a bad person. Separates a man from his kids just because he became an atheist. I know you, Paulogia still gets to see his kids once in a while, but not like it used to be, right? There was probably some precious years there that some things he wished he could have seen and couldn't. Just because you're scared of hell. Maybe there was other reasons, I don't know. Yeah, good point, Brian. They probably don't want to be around you. Yeah, that's fine. Like, that's the thing. This is the whole point, is when people want strangers to call them certain pronouns. Why do you care what strangers call you? The thing is, most people do it anyhow, but they're thinking something else. And I've been very honest with people. Like, if I look at you and you look the opposite of what your pronoun is, I sometimes tell the person, I'll use your preferred pronoun, but I'm thinking something else. It's getting to the point where I think some people not only want you to use the right pronoun, but mean it. Which just becomes like trying to enforce some thought crime, thought policing. But I got a news alert here. I cannot control people with my thoughts, nor can people control me with theirs. You can somewhat control people to use certain speech under penalty of the law or penalty of peer pressure, but you'll never be able to control people's thoughts. At least, not to that extent. I try bisexuality out every week. Amy Newman, you are selfish. Most of us on this planet have only 50% to select from. You're going for 100%. Don't you think you're being a little greedy? Like, pick a team already. Skins or shirts? Shirts or skins? You're like those Western doors that just flap both ways. No, I like a door with a handle I can open and it goes one direction. Because you know why? Because if you're flapping in both directions, Amy, someone's bound to get hurt. It's going to slam in their head. Pick a team. Yeah, Glenn Royer, I agree with you. I'd say most trans people are okay with being misgendered. It's the non-trans people who are more offended, it seems. No, I'm not sure that's what she meant, Steve Stevens. I think Amy and I went to separate schools together, so I know her well. This is from a bit ago, but I agree with you, Doug. Being able to offend people is crucial to good conversations. Yes. Amy, you and I can be friends. I can be friends with you, Amy, but not Mitesh. And definitely not Sasha. But you're okay, Amy. And I can be friends with, what's his name? How long? As long as he promises to call me his little bitch. I should probably start the outro music before I get in trouble. I don't even know what Amy looks like. Have I seen you, Amy? Because Brian says you have debates or conversations. Let me look you up. Amy Newman. Okay, I found your channel. 1.45 subs. Oh yeah, I think I've seen you before. Don't beat your slaves. Well, you have to beat your slaves in order for morale to improve. Is bitches a swear word? It's a female dog, right? I'm sometimes on MDD. Is that a hallucinogenic drug? Oh, modern day debate. And I do atheist content on my channel. Oh, you're an atheist. You're one of those people. Nobody likes an atheist. I'll buy you a beer and tussle your hair while you say it. Well, don't tussle too hard. How long? Because I don't have much hair left. Poof. My apologies to J.K. Rowling. She was scheduled to come on today's show. She's actually waiting in the wings, but we ran out of time.